Okay, so we're going to graph a secant curve, and it's got it all, you know. I think it's got it all. Yeah. So y equals a secant bx minus c plus d. All right. We'll go ahead and take the approach that they give us on how to do these, but they don't really explain a whole lot. So I'll try to, I know my videos are kind of long, but I'll try to explain it to you. First, think about what does the basic secant curve look like. Okay, so there's like an asymptote here and an asymptote here, and those are at pi over 2 and negative pi over 2. And then there's one over here at 3 pi over 2. Now, we know this is going to change, but it just tells us, okay, what does it look like? And then, okay, kind of something like that. Okay, so that's what we're going to be transforming. Now, we know the stretch. That's probably getting to be easier for you, right? It's the absolute value of A. It's going to have a stretch of 4. It's not going to reflect about the x-axis. So instead of it being at 1, you know, it's going to be at 4. It's not really because it's going to have a vertical shift. Okay, but we'll get to that. The period. The period's going to be 2 pi over b. And in our case, that's 2 pi over, pi over 3. So then if I invert and multiply, I'm going to get that to be 6, right? Okay, so let's keep that in mind. That's kind of a big number, but that's okay. And then how do we do the phase shift? This one's going to have a phase shift. And so that's going to be c over b, which in our case is pi over 2 over 3 over, pi over 3. So that's going to be pi over 2 times 3 over pi, which gets you 1.5. We'll just go with a decimal here. And then finally, there's going to be a vertical shift of up 1. Up 1. By the way, this phase shift is going to the right. Okay, so we'll keep that all in mind. So we'll draw some kind of coordinate system here. Okay. Now, what is the period? The period is 6, right? So normally, like if we didn't have a phase shift, I could count out like 1, 2, 3, negative 1, negative 2, negative 3, right? And that would be a period of 6 right there. But I've got to move it 1.5 over. Okay, so 1.5 to the right is going to be right here. Okay, now what point is that got moved over? Well, it's the point right here that went from, you know, the point that we had at 0, that got shifted over 1.5, okay? But it's not going to be at 1 because it has a stretch factor of 4. So let me get some more marks on here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. But there's also a vertical shift up, so I'm going to have to go up 1. So the whole thing's going to get shifted up 1. So what used to be at 4 is now going to be up there at 5. Yikes. Okay. So it would have been at 1 times 4 brings it up here, but then the whole thing has to shift up. But it doesn't happen there. It happens over here because of the horizontal, the phase shift. Okay? That's a point. There we go. We got one. Okay, so we won't draw in the rest of the curve till we get our asymptotes placed. Okay? All right. So for the asymptotes, let's work with those for a minute. I'll do that in green. So the asymptotes are pi over 2 times b. What was b? Pi over 3. Okay, so you're going to have pi times 3 over 2 pi. Okay, so well, that can't be right. That's at 1.5. And this is a secant curve. Okay. Well, I can't have an asymptote there. I must have written something down wrong. I forgot the phase shift. Okay, so the asymptote would be there, except it's going to be shifted because you've got to add in, where can I write it? The phase shift, the C over B, which is 1.5. So now the asymptote's going to be 1.5 plus 1.5, which is going to be 3. All right. So that's going to be right there. Okay. The good news is, that was the hard part. Okay. I got to extend my graph a little bit here. So 4, 5, 6. And then the other asymptote, which would have normally been on the others, like over here, that's also moving to the right. So now we have an asymptote right there. And then finally at the end of the period, remember the period is 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Another way you could do this is, think about the period and then do the phase shift, do like the first asymptote and the last asymptote, and then just go halfway in between and then halfway in between of that. That might be an easier approach. Okay, now we've got the first part then. So it's going to go off like this and off like this. I kind of need a bigger piece of graph paper. Okay, now let's do the other part that's going downward, right? So normally you would have gone to negative 1, 2, 3, 4, but remember it's shifting up. So it's got to go up to the 3 mark. So it's going to be right here, and it's going to go up to 3. Okay, so my curves aren't the best, but it's going to look something like that. Okay, so I think you got to be kind of careful here to remember that it's shifting up. There might be a tendency to think, oh, it's going to be at negative 5, but it's not. It's going to be at negative 3. Okay, all right.